Welcome everyone, and thank you all for tuning in to the Chair Sessions with Dr. D. It's my pleasure to have the multi-award winning and legendary recording artist John McEuen on the line with us today from Nashville. John's the co-founding member of the iconic Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and over the years he's recorded over 45 albums, including 7 solo albums and a multitude of guest recordings. His works have earned him multiple Grammys, CMAs, and ACM awards, an Emmy-nominated film score, and he was also inducted into the traditional Country Music Hall of Honor in 2009 and Bluegrass Hall of Fame in 2017. John's published 2 books, and he's recorded 7 solo albums. His latest solo project is entitled The Newsman, A Man of Record, and it's a collection of 10 spoken word tracks by various writers, and they're accompanied by John's music. Today, John's going to talk to us about his latest project, in addition to his upcoming show at the Lizzie Rose Music Room in Tuckerton, New Jersey. Welcome aboard, John.
Well, thank you. It's really good to be here. Darren, you've been doing this a long time?
Believe it or not, this is a relatively new project for me.
Sounds like you've been doing it a long time.
Thank you.
I'm glad to be a part of it.
Well, I'm glad you were able to take the time to talk to us today. John, before we start talking about the album, I want to talk about a couple little tidbits that I was reading and that I saw on some of the interviews that you did and a few articles that I read. One of them was, and I found this one really interesting because it's something that I actually could relate to, and it's not a very common thing, but when I was younger, I worked in a magic shop, and when I was a young kid, and I actually saw in one of your interviews that you also worked in a magic shop, and I found it very interesting because it's kind of foreshadowing to what was to later occur in your life and in your career. So, do you want to talk about that?
What it did is it gave me a desire to perform. I wasn't much of a person to get in front of people and have anything to say. But if you're doing a trick, as you know, you have people's attention, and it's up to you to captivate them or to make yourself look ridiculous.
Definitely.
And, if you drop the ball, drop the card, whatever. So at 16, 17 years old, I was performing these tricks all day long in Disneyland. And you did the tricks because you're trying to sell them. And if you weren't any good, you wouldn't sell them. And I sold 152 Svengali decks one day. I was good.
How did you end up in the magic shop? Was it something you were interested in?
Oh, yeah. Dang it. From the time I was 13 or 14 and 15, and I was hanging around. When my family moved down to Southern California, I was hanging around the magic shop. And I just was buying everything, every trick I could.
Did you have the rings too?
Oh, linking rings, of course. Yeah. That was my big deal.
So working in the magic shop set you up for performing?
Yes, definitely, because you could demonstrate the tricks to a crowd of anywhere from 1 to 2 to 5 to up to about 20 people would be watching at any given time. And if the pitch went well, it took about 10, 15 minutes. And then you stopped and they drifted on and they bought something and you sold things and you thought about what you messed up or could have done better. And then 5 minutes later, you're starting again. It was a constant run of shows, behind the counter. And it was really a great thing.
That was the foreshadowing for what was to come in your future with your music career and performing. So thanks for sharing that story with us.
Sure. I'll do a card trick for you if I see you when I come to Lizzie Rose.
The next time if we do a video interview, we'll have you do a few tricks.
Yeah. I still do for people, and it's funny. It sticks with you.
It does stick with you. I know.
I mean, between you and me, the double lift is my friend.
That's funny because even now there's some older childhood friends of mine that will, they'll always recall the days of working in the magic shop and doing magic tricks. I used to do like kids parties, and they'll always joke around about that. The other little tidbit I wanted to talk about was the banjo lessons with Steve Martin, because I think that some of the listeners on this program are from the era that grew up with Steve Martin and that famous Saturday Night Live skit where he performed the King Tut.
Well, there's a lot going on leading up to King Tut. There's a guy working in the magic shop, and then he goes to college. Steve Martin goes to college for 4 years. He's a philosophy major. And while he is working at Melodyland Theater in Knott's Berry Farm. Melodyland, you get $3 a show every time you did one of the melodramas.
Okay.
But he graduates. He becomes a writer for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. Mason Williams was a head writer. Carl Gottlieb, who later went on to write Jaws, was another writer. And Steve did that. And we were having lunch one day at Farmers Market, which is right next to CBS Television City in Hollywood, as they would say. Coming from CBS Television City in Hollywood. But Farmers Market was like a 1935, 1940s kind of collection of stores and stuff, and restaurants and open air. And, with a roof over it, but open air. And Steve says, I want to start performing. I'm going to quit. Well, he quits and he starts performing. He took his 8 minutes of stage time and worked it up to 45 minutes. And it was funny. And I got my brother interested in managing him. Well, actually, Bill, you've got to see Steve Martin. He is being funny now. He's good. He's on stage. And Bill started managing him in, I think, 1970. Well, my brother was managing the Dirt Band. He managed Steve also. Put him on a lot of shows with opening for us. And King Tut, well, it came up. We were playing the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in L.A., which is like the Carnegie Hall of L.A., a beautiful 2,500 seat hall. And Steve came in. He was going to sit in with us. And he goes, look, I got this idea for a song. Bass player, play doom, 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 doom. And you guys go, King Tut, King Tut, and he mapped it out. And we went out on stage. We rehearsed it a few times. The place was sold out. And Steve was kind of a local, not star yet, but semi-star. I mean, he was selling out of clubs when he would do them. But Dorothy Chandler Pavilion was sold out and packed, and we went out and did King Tut, and it blew the roof off, It was just killer. And we recorded it in Aspen. My brother was also produced records, and he put together a session with the Dirt Band and a few musicians in Aspen. Brian Savage is a great sax player, played on it, and he recorded it in 7 hours from start to finish and mixing it. We had it done, and that's pretty incredible to get the basic tracks, the vocal, the background vocals, all the stuff, and then have it done. And he sent it out. He couldn't get Warner Brothers to release it because we don't want to release a comedy single. It won't do anything. Could make us look bad or whatever their reasoning was. And he sent 20 acetates. Now, for those that are younger, those are discs that are like records, but they're temporary. They only play about 30 or 40 times. They were used then to send things around. I'll send you an acetate on it. And he made about 25, maybe. He sent them to radio stations like BCN in Boston and ABC in New York, LS in Chicago, 𝘋𝐿𝐴 in Atlanta. And it was amazing. Within the first 2 weeks, it had made it to the top 20 on every station he sent it to.
Wow.
And the stations start calling Warner Brothers and saying, hey, how many records have you sold to that King Tut? And they'd go, well, none. We don't. It's not our record. It's not a single. Well, you got Steve Martin on the label, don't you? Well, yeah. Well, King Tut's a record. We're playing it. It's number 18. It's the second week.
Wow.
And if you're not selling any records, we're going to have to quit playing it. He shamed Warner Brothers into releasing the single, and they put it out, and it did 1.5 million units.
Wow. Did he not know how to play the banjo before you gave him lessons?
Neither one of us knew. We were learning at the same time.
Wow.
Hey, Steve, imagine a couple of teenagers hearing an instrument and going, man, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to play that. Well, I'm going to get one. I'm going to find out where to get one. And, we didn't know where to get one. There was no internet. There was nothing. And
And it took off from there.
Yeah. When I showed him things, he's kind enough to say that I taught him how to play. That's good. But he really has it too. In fact, I produced his album, 𝘍𝐿, in 2010. 𝘍𝐿, Songs for the 5-String Banjo by Steve Martin. And we won a Grammy. And that was, I totally expected to be nominated for the Grammy. I didn't think it would win for sure, but I knew it would get nominated. It's a good album.
Wow, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that.
Good, thank you.
Now we're going to get on to more serious things. We're moving away from King Tut and the banjo, and I really want to get down into the nitty gritty, so to speak, of your new project, The Newsman.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what inspired that project, and how did that all start, and how did that all come together?
Well, the first cut is about a newsman, and it's a story I wrote, maybe 15 years ago. And I finally found the music that would go with it 10 years ago. So I had a good story with wonderful music about a crippled guy that sold newspapers in Hollywood. And he must have made thousands of dollars, because people would always say, I gave the poor bastard an extra buck or two. I knew him. His name was Steve. He would get into all the record companies and the agencies. He'd go right to the president's office, and you want a newspaper? And he had speech problems, but he was limping along. I don't know what it was, if it was polio or what his situation was, but he could walk around. It was very strange, but he got something out of doing that all of these hippies and alcohol and drug drinking, all these people were trying to get in the music business and the agency management business. He got something that all of them wanted, and that was respect. He got respect from everyone. Everybody, nobody had a bad word about him. He was a hard worker. He was at Ben Frank's restaurant selling newspapers at 10 in the morning when everybody's, you got hippies and rock and roll guys and guys left over from the Bobby Darin days, all having breakfast. And he's going around table to table. And I'll never forget that.
And when did the idea come together to take that and put it into this project?
Well, I had to, that was the idea for the project.
Okay.
I got to make an album. I've got to, that's what I do. I make records. I try to try to make them, and whether it was with the Dirt Band or some of the other people I produced or stuff, but it was time to get this album together, and I couldn't ignore him. He was a big influence on me. At 1967, I was driving, I was taking a taxi to the airport to catch a plane to Boston, and I see this guy on his motor scooter going up Fairfax Boulevard in Hollywood at about 6 in the morning, and his scooter's full of newspapers. And I think that guy's going to work. And here I am complaining because I'm sitting I'm not driving. I'm going to get in an airplane and go in a seat 500 miles an hour, and I'm not going to pay for it. I'm not going to do it. And,
Right.
It's like I'm just being taken around. This guy had to get newspapers, put them on his bike, drive them, get them up to Hollywood Boulevard, get them up to Sunset Boulevard. And I just could never complain. After that, I got home. A week later, I was out eating at Ben Frank's restaurant, and in comes Steve, the newsman, with newspapers. And I started kind of noticing him a lot then. And it's just like these people that complain about jobs are hard to find. Well, go find one. Move if you have to. I've always had to move. I never got that. I was talking to a guy in Florida. He goes, there's just no work around here. Well, go to a different around here.
Yeah.
Well, no, I live here. That this country is made up of immigrants.
Yeah.
Migrating, going from one place to another. I'm going to go to Chicago. I'm going to go to Wisconsin, whatever.
Watching the Newsman gave you a perspective on things.
That's right. Thank you.
Right?
That's a word I needed.
And it sounds like that perspective inspired you.
Well, it helped me because I was road managing the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band the first 15 years because somebody had to do it. I was the only one. I was the oldest one when we had our first hit record. I was 21 years old. And everybody else was 18, 19, 17, 20. It's like, no, there were no 20-year-olds. Anyway, so I was the only one old enough to rent a car. So I had to go rent the car. Then I had to drive the car. Then I had to drive the car to a hotel. Then I had to drive the car to a gig.
So you were the designated driver.
Well, I was a road manager.
Yep.
I booked the hotels. I booked the airfare, the flights. I got us around the country and then played the show and then went and collected the money. And
so at a young age, you were doing it all.
Yeah, but anytime it was tough, I thought about the Newsman. I thought about this guy that was doing it all.
Mm.
And thank you, Steve, the Newsman, for saving my sanity, or I don't know, making less of it disappear.
How did the other tracks come together? How did you choose them?
The Cremation of Sam McGee is a poem that my sister read to me whenever I was good. In fifth and sixth grade, she'd read that to me. And she must have read it to me 2 dozen times. But it was always a favorite. And I had to do it. It's been in my life. It showed up then in my high school literature book, Adventures in American English. And it's in there. And so I had it hanging around my life. And I just want, I don't sing a lot or very well. I'll just say it a lot. I sing when I have to so I can play backup notes on the guitar.
Well, let me tell you something. Your voice on this project, which is a lot of spoken word set to your music, and the Cremation of Sam McGee, one of the tracks, it's a sensory experience. When I listen to it, the sounds, the music, your voice, it literally took me right into your story. And it was interesting because there's a part, I don't want to give it all away. I'd love people to listen to it on their own and see what resonates. But you can hear the crackling fire, or what sounds like a crackling fire.
That's fire.
Was that real fire, or was it? It almost sounded. Yeah. It almost sounded like one of those Native American rain sticks.
No, it was fire.
Okay. Wow. Yep. What are some of the instruments that were used on that one, or sound effects?
I used the banjo in a minor tuning, and I would strum it and let it do a harmonic. You know what a harmonic is? When you put your finger over the 12th or 7th fret and let the strings ring, but they ring an octave higher.
Okay.
This, yeah, and this.
Gotcha.
That's the harmonic. That's harmonic. That's not this. Same strings, only I'm fretting the 5th fret not fretting, I'm just putting my finger over the strings at the 5th fret, or the 7th fret, or the 9th fret, or the 12th fret. And anyway, so I would have that minor key, and for the banjo, I would go, but you wouldn't hear. I used my recording Pro Tools and took out the strike of the string.
Mm.
You know, I can't. How can I describe it? It's just like, so it start humming. You know,
yeah.
It opens a song, and I thought, oh, this is a cool sound. I'll use that periodically in here. And then I use guitar. I use banjo regular. And let's see, keyboard. Dave Hoffner played keyboard for me. And some percussion stuff.
Yeah, that was really...
Fire, wind, dog,
yeah.
Woof. I don't know if I had dogs on there. I did on the Newsman.
Yeah, it really, everything all integrated together. Really, if you're listening to it and you're in a quiet place and you just close your eyes, you're right there. It really transports you. And
talk
about magic.
I've been listening to this for a year, at least 2 or 3 days a week, and I go, oh, that's cool, because there's things about it. It's packed. It's action packed. It's packed with little things that you don't notice the first time or the second.
Yeah.
And when you notice something on the third time, you didn't notice the something that you heard the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like listening. It's like listening in layers.
Yes.
When you listen to something, the first listen, the first round, you might listen to it. Maybe you're not really totally focused on it or whatever. And then you listen to it again, you're in a quiet place. And you just pick up things, that you didn't pick up the first time or the second time, and things, resonate differently with you. So,
yeah.
Again, here we are trying to break this down into, words, but the real magic is in listening to it. So I really urge everybody to take a listen to this and really just get yourself in a quiet space and listen to it and just be transported. It's a great story, and it sounds like it's a story that has been a part of your childhood.
Yes.
You've revived it in such a lively way and given it, you've given it new life. You've taken
I wanted to do the definitive version.
Yeah, well, you really take it from being words on a page, and it comes to life. That's the only way that I can describe it. So,
well, thank you, man.
Yeah.
That's really appreciated that you like it that much.
This podcast really, and the guests that I have on the show, I take slightly different perspective than a lot of the other podcasts. This is about the music, deeper into the music, the vibes, what resonates with the music, and there's definitely a strong vibe on this entire.
I like to think that you're listening to a great soundtrack for a movie. Only there's no movie. There's no movie.
The movie will play in your head when you put the headphones on and listen to it. It's like having your own little short story movie.
Like 𝐿𝑎𝑑𝑒𝑛.
𝐿𝑎𝑑𝑒𝑛. So that brings us to the next track. Another one that resonated pretty strongly with myself. 𝐿𝑎𝑑𝑒𝑛.
It's a mountain in Vietnam. During the Vietnam War in 1968, there was a young man that was with a troop that they were supposed to take the mountain. Just keep your head low. Keep your head low, and if you want to make the monsoon, here's a gun. You don't have to win. This is all the things that this guy was told. He turned into a song, into a bunch of words, and his brother sent it to me, and I read it, and it was like so spine tingling, and it sat in my files for a good 8 years. Then I started working on this album, and I thought, I know the music to put to that. It takes a while sometimes,
Yeah,
and
it's a process.
Yeah, and so I put the music to it that you hear. A friend of mine, Chris Caswell, a genius keyboard player, and my guitar and slide and bass, and I did all the string stuff. And anyway, trying to set up a war movie, and this was a war.
So, John, you used the word spine tingling, and
I did?
Yeah, just a couple minutes ago. And to be honest with you, that is really the best characterization of that one. So, I talked about how the way your vocals, the music, and the sound effects are so powerful. In this one, spine tingling is a great word, because what it does, what it did to me is when I listened to it, it put me right. I felt like I was in the trenches with them. The sound of the helicopters, the music.
That's a compliment you could pay me for that one. The helicopters, isn't that a wonderful sound?
Well, yes, it's almost in the context of the track, though. It was almost chilling, because when I was talking about being transported, basically the listener is transported onto the battlefield. And if you will, and for the listeners that really allow themselves to really absorb the music, like we've been talking about, that's where the power is. So, but it's the integration of not only that helicopter sound, but your music and your vocals as the narrator. It really puts the listener right there.
Well, that's great that you think that. Thank you.
And
Thomas More, the guy that wrote it, I'll have to tell him about that. He'd appreciate it.
Thomas More.
Yeah.
When was that written?
That was written in 1969.
Okay. Wow. Yep.
And it was sent to his brother. Thomas being the brother, it was sent to him. He did not go to Vietnam, but his brother did. And he sent it to his brother in Massachusetts. And his brother wrote it and refined it and stuff. And then sat around, and he got it to me now it's like 15 years ago. And it sat around my hands for 8 years. Now it's been working on that for about 8 years. I mean, I worked on it I know what I need. I need a helicopter. I go to my sound effects file and dig up a helicopter.
Nice. Yeah.
I need a machine gun. Oh, okay. I don't need, I need,
Right. All powerful sounds.
Yeah.
For you, in the art of crafting these tracks, what's your MO as far as like, how do you know when it's done? Or do you have a hard time saying, okay, I'm done with this? Oh, it could use this, it could use that. Do you get caught up in that, or do you know when it's done?
That's a good question. How do you know when it's done? Well, I knew that one was done when I put the words, I got the words in between the music, because you can't just talk through. Like you'll notice on Cremation with Sam McGee that 80% of the words don't have anything playing under them, but they have strings ringing and stuff,
Right.
Overhang.
Yeah.
There's, it's like, there are strange things done in the big night sun by the men who moil for gold. The Arctic tales have secret tales that would make your blood run cold.
Yeah.
You try and find those spaces, yet some songs, like Pineapple John, I hope you like that. That's like a rest.
Yes.
From 𝘬𝐸. It's just a silly little story about a guy that played pickleball with his guitar, a rare guitar. And that's an example of me in the studio with my guitar. And I'm proud that I did that in one take. And just sat down and I'd practice it, of course, but you practice it until okay, I can do this now. And I tell the engineer, let me know when to go. And so Pineapple John was one pass, and it seemed like guitar was all that was needed. Old Rivers was guitar too. Now, Old Rivers, that was a piece I heard done in 1963. And I didn't play music then, but I kept it in the back of my head for 50 years. And I was working on this album, and I go, I need one more song, one more piece. Maybe I should do Old Rivers. And I got the words, and I went, yeah. And that was when I'm proud of, because I knocked it out in 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Recording the guitar, the vocals, the bass, and the second guitar. And anyway.
Was that the last one?
Yeah.
So when you finished that one, you knew that this project was
my album is done.
Wow. John, now I want to talk a little bit about the last track on the album, Red Clay. I felt like I feel like the message in Red Clay is so needed right now.
Yes, that's what I felt.
Yeah.
When Thaddeus Bryant wrote that, my wife heard it at his parents' house, because he recited it at a party, and she said, Thaddeus did this wonderful poem called Red Clay, and well, have him send it to me. I'm looking for stuff for this album. And he sent it to me. I went, wow. And he's the youngest contributor. He's only 20 years old. And when he wrote this,
wow.
And I thought it was written like a 40-year-old, somebody with deeper perspective.
I was just going to say, I would have never guessed. Yeah.
But he writes stuff like this. I wanted to do it. So I asked him, and I said, can I put music to it? And yeah, sure. So it was really fun.
What's it about? Tell our listeners what the message is on Red Clay, and how, and what inspired you to put that on there as part of the collection.
Don't forget that love is one of the most important things that we have, that sets us apart from the animal kingdom.
Amen.
That we need to pay attention to that, and that people have come and gone over the same dirt. Or in the case of this, the red clay in Georgia is what I think he's referring to.
Yeah.
And, that I feel like Bob Dylan right now. I don't know. It's just a song.
Oh.
You figure it out.
So yeah, no, I mean, like you said, like we said earlier, you know, the words the words that you said about love, kind of hit the nail on the head. But again, for all those listening, listen to Red Clay off the Newsman. Words can only do part of the justice, but listen to it. I think that's where the real magic is in listening to it. And again, not only the words, but your voice, the sounds, the way that you read it, magical, and a much needed message at this time in the world.
Killed at the Ford was cool for me. I mean, I was going through material and I come across Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. Does he have anything to say that's blah blah that is? And I come across this poem of his about a guy that gets killed in the middle of the Civil War, and then I had this piece of music called "The Vacant Chair," which was written during the Civil War. I mean, not during, but right after the Civil War. About we will meet, but we shall miss him. There will be one vacant chair as a lyric, and it's about the guy that gets killed in this poem. And I wish Longfellow had met the writer of this song. And anyway, so I took the song and chopped it up a little bit and put it behind Killed at the Ford. And it's about a young guy that's out riding with his troop, and out of the dark came a whistling sound, and I heard it hit, and he fell on the ground. It's like I put the petals over his eyes. Now, he was laying there as if he was asleep, but he was there because he was dead.
Yeah, yeah.
And that ends up killing his wife back in Massachusetts. When she gets the news, she and all the neighbors wondered that she should die because she just read the news that her husband had been killed. And anyway, it's really that, along with 𝘂𝐴𝐵𝐴𝐷𝐴, are two different comments on war and battle.
Both very intense, though. Both very intense, and I liked what you said earlier about the other track, Pineapple. That's the rest. So in the middle,
that's also what Fly Trouble is.
Yeah, and I think that was a smart move to have some of those in there, because I think with the intensity of some of the other ones, the listener, I think I felt like you almost need a little rest to kind of be like, wow, after you absorb
all that.
Yeah, it kind of
there's the Vietnam War. Now let's go to the if you go to another war, and then here's one about a fire, and
yeah.
So Fly Trouble is Hank Williams Sr., meaning the parent. Hank Williams did songs as Luke the Drifter, did talking blues songs. Did you know that?
No, did not. Well,
in 1947, 48, 49, he would do Luke the Drifter songs, like We're Still a-Livin', So Everything's Okay. And and Fly Trouble. Did you ever sit straight up in bed with something circling around your head? It's what it is. It whizzes by and it's just one pesky little fly. Shake your head and twist your nose. Settle down to sweet repose. And then when you're just about to doze, Fly Trouble. And buzz, buzz, buzz goes that busy little fly. And that was I think that was 1948 he put that out. And as far as my playing goes, I really liked it because I played acoustic guitar and lap slide guitar and 5-string banjo that fit in there. But that's my best acoustic solo I've ever recorded.
Nice. So that is the Newsman, a man of record, John McEwen's latest project of spoken word, music, sound effects. It's a sensory experience. Check it out. It looks like it's available on all the streaming platforms. It'll take you on a sensory ride, a sensory roller coaster. Yeah, John, where else can we get it?
You can get it signed if you go to my website, which is John McEuen, MCEUEN.net. I've signed a bunch of them and they sell them there. But sure, you can save a couple bucks by going to Amazon.
Very cool. And that's going to bring us to, will you be bringing some to the Lizzie Rose Music Room?
Probably, yes.
All right. So you have the show coming up at the Lizzie Rose Music Room.
June 12th.
June 12th, coming up soon. So tell
June
us.
8th, June 8th, I'm doing the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh, nice.
And one of the acts playing that day. And then on the 18th, I'm doing June 18th, the Grand Ole Opry again with John Carter Cash. John Carter Cash wrote the Pineapple John piece, by the way, and I put the music to it. And John Carter Cash is the son of Johnny Cash and June Carter. And they're doing a Johnny Cash, June Carter tribute show at the Grand Ole Opry on the 18th.
Very cool.
He called me up to participate in that.
That should be fun, too.
Yeah. On the 14th, I'll be at the Charlie Poole Festival. Charlie Poole was a strange man from the 20s and 30s that he played the banjo and did his own music. And a lot of it ended up being on people's records 30, 40 years later.
Wow. So when you get to New Jersey, what can people expect when they come to the show? Are you
I'm going to be doing Nitty Gritty Dirt Band favorites, my favorite tunes, some of the hits, some of the songs we recorded that not everybody will recognize, but some will. And then I'll be doing, there's an album called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? You familiar with that?
That one won a few awards, correct?
Yeah, it did really well. And the first one recorded in 1972, I will be doing some music from that, a bunch of music from that. And so it's kind of like Bluegrass and Overdrive, the Dirt Band favorite songs, and some things like off the Newsman. I'll be doing a couple pieces from there.
So you will actually be doing a couple pieces from the Newsman also.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's going to be that'll be a pretty diverse ride too, for anyone going to that show.
I think so. It's a good room. Lou is a classic guy. He's like one of the old timers. That's one main reason I like him. He's like Doug Weston in L.A., who ran the Troubadour. We played many times at the Troubadour. The Troubadour was a sad cafe in the Eagles song.
Right, yep.
Sad.
John, I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking about your music and your new project and your shows. Thank you for sharing your stories and taking us on, not only on this new album, but for taking us on a road that goes back a long way with the music of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. Thank you for all of it. Thanks again, John.
That sounds good.
To teach the people of this land that hate is wrong and love is grand.